Tony Hinchcliffe is in some hot water after what he said at a Donald Trump rally at Madison Square Garden, calling the country of Puerto Rico floating garbage. And Madison Square Garden is an arena that he and his crew sold out to do his show, Kill Tony, the #1 live podcast in the world. Now, Tony has been facing some criticism from the media, from liberals, from people of all different shapes, ages, and so forth. So Tony has been in, some hot water with the media lately. And, it also kind of paints a picture with what the direction of Kill Tony is going to be going in the future here. And we're already seeing Tony kind of making some calculated moves with episode number 689 of the show with Harlan Williams and Dr. Phil. Now, that episode was originally supposed to be with Ari Shaffir and Jim Norton at Skankfest. Now, this episode was actually scheduled on their YouTube channel for a couple of hours before they made the switch to put Harlan Williams and Dr. Phil's episode in Las Vegas at Resorts World in favor of the Ari Shaffir and Jim Norton episode. The reason behind that is not 100% clear at this time, but you have to imagine that it's some sort of PR move from Tony and the Kill Tony crew, as the rumors are that in that Skankfest episode, Ari Shaffir takes a literal shit on stage. Now, with Tony saying all those bad things about Puerto Rico and making, a negative name for himself at this Donald Trump rally, that's probably not the episode that he wants all these new faces to come and see. He wants to see how many people love him and support him at this big arena with two people, one that has won a Guest of the Year in Adam Ray, Dr. Phil, and a comedian in Harlan Williams who is in line for Guest of the Year in 2024. So that switch was made prior to the episode's release. I'm very excited to watch the Ari Shaffir and Jim Norton episode. I think it will be better than this Dr. Phil and Harlan Williams episode, but that's for pretty much a whole different reason, and we will get into that, as this Harlan Williams Dr. Phil episode at Resorts World in Las Vegas highlighted everything that is wrong with Kill Tony when they decide to go to a larger venue. But before we dive into that, let's talk about Tony and his, I don't want to say antics the last couple of days, but, Tony and his, speech at the Trump rally and, possible reasons for the switch of the episode from the Skankfest episode with Ari Shaffir to a more, I would say, an episode that paints Tony and his show in a more positive light. So clearly the #1 reason is because of Tony going to that Trump rally and, telling some run-of-the-mill Hinchcliffe jokes. If you go back and you watch what Tony said during that Trump rally, none of it is really out of the realm of what Tony does on a typical episode of Kill Tony, or, any of the stand-up jokes that he has done his whole entire career. The one that has got everybody, up in arms is talking about Puerto Rico and calling it garbage, essentially. And that is, the main joke that people are taking and running with and being, very offended by. The funniest part about all of this is now Donald Trump claims he doesn't even know who Tony Hinchcliffe is, and that he just came up onto the stage and did that bit and had no inkling that Tony was even going to go up there and say that joke because Donald Trump has no idea who Tony Hinchcliffe even is, which I thought was super, super funny. So after going on to that Trump rally, I just think that he wanted to capitalize on the notoriety that he captured from going on stage at Madison Square Garden and speaking during a Donald Trump event. He knew that there were going to be multiple new eyeballs onto his show the following Monday, as evident by over 1 million views already on this episode as the time of recording. So instead of going with a Skankfest episode that, definitely has some controversy within it, as we already know, he decided to go with the arena show over that Skankfest episode that has a whole catalog of characters from within it, has 1 million bucket pulls, all the regulars, and, you get Harlan Williams and Dr. Phil, who are two of the best guests that the show has to offer right now. So a good business decision from Tony Hinchcliffe there, I think, to get these new viewers acclimated to what the show is and who the reoccurring characters are and some faces that might be on the show going forward. Because even though this is bad publicity for Tony Hinchcliffe, he is going to get new viewers, despite the fact that what he did say, ruffled some feathers more than it made him new fans. These people who have ruffled feathers are going to tune in and see what this show is all about. And if you're going to create that many enemies or get that many new eyeballs, you want to put your best foot forward. And I think in Tony's eyes, this is what that was. And that's why he decided to upload this episode in favor of the one that was, originally scheduled. And, it did him some good, as it had 100,000 live viewers on YouTube. So a very smart and calculated move by Tony Hinchcliffe. This felt a lot like the Tom Brady roast, where a lot of eyes started to move towards Tony. Whereas the Tom Brady roast obviously was more positive and more people wanted to see what this Tony Hinchcliffe guy was all about, what his show is. But now it's more negative, but that's still going to give him more viewers and it's going to still put more money in his pocket, and he wanted to give him the more bang for his buck, and that's what this episode delivered for Tony, who has been doing a lot lately. Not only has he spoke at a Donald Trump rally, he was also on College Game Day with Pat McAfee. He has a rumored Netflix deal for Kill Tony, so there's more eyes on Mr. Hinchcliffe than there has been ever before. So I think as far as a decision to make this episode the one that debuted on Monday after saying some controversial stuff and being, in a cancelable position with a certain group of people, I think this was the best possible business decision for Tony to put this episode out. However, I just cannot get behind these arena shows and these theater shows that Tony and the gang are putting out. It's just not what has made me, and I've seen it on Reddit and Twitter and things like that. It hasn't made what made me fall in love with the show, and other fans and long-term fans of Kill Tony as well. It's not bold to say that a show built around open micers isn't meant for an arena setting. There were 300 people plus that signed up just for this episode of Kill Tony alone, and a majority of those people, I can almost assure you, are first-time stand-up comedians. We've seen it just in this episode alone that I think there were 2 or 3 bucket pulls that were first-timers, and 2 of them got booed by a over-eccentric crowd that just, seemed like they came there to see, the familiar faces of Kill Tony. If it's your first time doing stand-up comedy, you don't want to do it at the H-E-B Center. You don't want to do it at Resort World, and you definitely don't want to do it at Madison Square Garden. So this is not what this show is all about. This show is about, making killers, developing stand-up comedians, and making sure that they perfect their craft, or, you get to know these stand-up comedians. The show is formed around the bucket, and this is not a format where bucket pulls are designed to thrive. And I don't think, that is a bold statement to say, and it is tough to watch these faces come out, get on a stage like this and not do better. And with a bigger stage and a larger venue, it tends to create longer shows with more regulars, prize appearances, and whatnot, which makes it hard for the lifeblood of the show to succeed, which is the bucket pulls. When you're bringing on so many of these golden ticket winners, of these regulars, it makes it hard for what most people tune in for to take center stage, which is, the open micers, the people that we haven't met, these new faces. And that was just really on center stage for this episode. No bucket pull from 689 had a real breakout night. I would say Izzy, who is the first guy that you saw at the beginning of this episode, had the best set of the night from the bucket pulls, but his interview was far from entertaining. And like I said earlier, there were a lot of first-timers, a lot of bombs, and a lot of booing, which you don't like to see for these first-timers or these stand-up comedians that are coming out and giving it a try. And it was nice to see two all-time great panelists, a guest of the year and a future guest of the year, and to see so many golden tickets return and regulars. But sometimes when you have so much good, it could be bad and it could almost feel like overkill. The likes of Jack Shaw, Jared Nathan, despite his Elvis outfit, and even Cam Patterson came out and were lackluster, in my opinion. And with all these killers and acts that have entered, the folklore of the show, it makes the show feel bloated and oversaturated, and when William Montgomery came on stage, I was almost happy that the episode was finally over, because we have seen so much, and these, not only did the bucket pulls not get a chance to shine, and, Tony was almost rushing them off the stage, not giving them much of a chance to have a good interview. But, I was also kind of getting tired of seeing, some of these regulars, come out onto the stage. Was glad David Lucas wasn't there. That probably would have sent me over the edge. Not a big David Lucas guy. But, the likes of Casey Rocket, Ari Maddie, David Jolly, Uncle Laser had one of his best sets ever in his career that I have seen, his best minute during this episode, and Todd Royce all walked away making the show feel special, and that was good, seeing those guys, come away with a solid set. But, when you have close to 10 regulars and golden tickets, it takes away from what makes the show special, which is getting to know these new people from the bucket. Having 3 regulars and maybe an occasional golden ticket has been the formula that works. The format wouldn't be so noticeably off or not as good, these formats where, you bring out a bunch of recurring guests or, old regulars, old golden ticket winners, wouldn't be so off or not as good as the original format that's been around for over a decade if it hadn't been so frequent over the last couple of months. But with MSG, HEB, the YouTube Center, I believe, they've done a lot of arenas and, large theaters lately that, the results are in, and the format with the arenas and the theaters are not that fun to watch. It makes it feel more intimate when they are in an environment like the Comedy Mothership. It makes it better when there's, a golden ticket that you haven't seen in 4 or 5 months comes back onto the stage and gives you something. When you see all of them all at once, it kind of makes it feel a little less special, at least in my opinion. And I didn't hate this episode because of how much, of, guys that showed up on this episode that make the show so great. They came in, they showed up, they did their thing, and it was pretty fun to watch, but it's definitely not the same as when it's at, the mothership or wherever this show has been recording their daily driver episodes. And I think the jury is in, and Kill Tony just is not made for these large arenas or these theater shows. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. What do you think about Tony's recent outbursts as well? I want to know. Let me know down below, and make sure you hit that subscribe button, click the bell icon to get notified every single time I drop a new video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Only shot it once?
No, I've shot I'm good at I'm a sharpshooter.
You are a sharpshooter. Wow.
I told you.
Well, keep it pointed away from you. I know it's going to be hard when this episode comes out, but...